How do we learn? A journey into your brains. So you did a little activity the other day, or you should have, when you were throwing medicine balls or passing medicine balls down a chain of people. If you did not do this activity, quickly describe it. You can see you had a chain of people, all your classmates, that were throwing a medicine ball from one person to the next without moving, in a chain, trying to pass it down to the end of the line as quickly as possible. If you dropped the ball, right, and made a mistake, the person who dropped it would have to run it all the way back to the start of the chain, and then you would start over until you were successful. Okay. As you're playing this, we made the challenge a little more complicated, doing it on one foot, etc. Got harder, some more mistakes were made, etc. Okay. So what does this have to do with learning? Well, in general, right, when you are learning something, it goes similar to what you all were doing. As a group, this was something new to you. So the first time you did it, right, if it was similar to things you've done before, it's probably a little bit easier. So if you've done like relays when you're in lines, passing things like pipe drills or whatever, it was probably a little bit easier the first time. 2 feet on the ground, look at each other, pass it. But sometimes, right, if people weren't paying attention, you'd drop it, you'd have to start all over and do it from scratch, which is similar to when you're learning something new, right? If you don't pay attention the first time, you're going to make a mistake and you're going to have to kind of start all over and figure it out from there. However, just like with this game, if one of you made a mistake of not paying attention and it caused the whole group to have to drop it and start over, probably you paid better attention and did better the next time as an individual. This is similar to learning in general. When you make a mistake, it actually kind of makes your brain pay a little more attention. It tells you you need to pay more attention. So you're actually more likely to learn it when you kind of take a step back and repeat. You'll learn it better than if you had made no mistakes at all. So that's actually can be a good thing. So the next piece of it was, right, it got a little more complicated, right? And as you were trying to balance on one foot and do this, it probably got a little bit harder. Your class might have dropped it more often and had to restart, right? Just like with anything else. You try to start learning at a basic level, make sure you master that, and then you move on. If you moved on to the more complicated too soon, you're going to make more mistakes, you're going to start over, and it's not going to go so well. It's also like when you're trying to learn something, say you're trying to learn how to do some math. If you try to rush it, you don't show your work, you don't keep track of what you're doing, you're not paying enough attention, you're going to make a lot of mistakes and have to keep starting over and maybe never finish the task. Versus if you take it nice and slow, really focus, take your time, show your work, etc., you're going to do better, even if it's more complicated. Similar with this. Standing on one foot is a little more difficult, so for those that was really hard with, if you slow down, really took your time and handed it off, you do much better than if you try to rush it. Because if everybody tried to rush it, you'd drop it, have to repeat, and it would be a lot faster to go slow and steady and finish in one go than to drop it a bunch of times really fast and have to do it like 3 times over to complete, right? Just like with every learning. But it goes beyond this. Because this model actually, this game, shows how your brain actually works. What is happening in your brains when you're learning something. So let's dive into that. So in your brains, you have cells that are called neurons. Okay? Again, neurons. It's spelled a little weird, but you will notice this root, neuro, right, will come into words sometimes. You might hear anything about neuro is about your brain. So just so you know. But neurons are cells that are in your brain. They're actually throughout your whole body. And these are the cells that pass messages between your brain and the rest of your body when you're trying to do anything. So for instance, you've got a brain full of neurons. Say you are trying to catch this medicine ball. What happens is you have a chain, just like the people were in a chain, passing messages from one neuron to the next. So this is a neuron passing to another neuron through the body, through the arms to the hand to tell your hand to open up and catch the ball. Once you catch it, what's going to happen is a new chain of neurons going back the other way is going to send a message saying, hey, we feel the catch, we've caught the ball. Send that message back to the brain so you know. Okay? Again, this is something that happens a lot faster than I'm describing. It's almost instant. Boom, catch it. Boom, we got it, right? Back and forth to your brain all the time. And again, it's a chain of neurons that starts with sort of this head part, right? So that's why it's connecting to the head. And then it's got these things called dendrites, which actually is related to fingers. Think of them as little hands that are passing the message to the head of the next cell all the way down. So again, just like in this game, you are passing the medicine ball, right? In your body, your brain is passing a little message. okay, which is like this. So what this is showing you is here's a neuron, right? Here's the head, here's the hand that's passing on the message in the dendrites. This is zoomed up right at the tip of one of these little hands, the dendrites. And what's happening here is just like with this medicine ball, it's sending out a bunch of little chemical messages, right? So these are all these chemicals coming out that go to the next neuron, and that's the message. That's how it knows how to pass a message. So it's these chemicals, and sometimes it's also electricity, little blasts of electricity. Okay, don't worry too much about exactly how that all works, but just want to make sure you have a little bit of background. So it passes these little chemicals, it passes the message just like this, right? Just like you passed the medicine ball from one person to the next, and once the next neuron gets it, it passes it along. But just like in this game you're playing, when you make a mistake, right, like sometimes the message might not get there, it might bounce off, it might not, the chemicals might be wrong, and then the message doesn't get there, it doesn't pass the message, and you make a mistake and have to start over to send the message. Okay, that's how neurons work in your brain, right? You have this chain of different neurons just passing a message all the way down. Now, as you're learning, you get a little better based on your neurons getting stronger and making bigger connections. All right, so let's dive into that a little more. So think about somebody learning to play the piano. Okay, so here's your brain, and here's all these neurons all over the place. When you first start learning to play the piano, you don't really have good connections from your brain to your hand to do the exact kind of movements that playing piano takes. Now, if you've done something similar, right, like if you use the keyboard a lot to type, you might have a little pathway, a little better pathway that is similar that your brain can kind of use and be like, okay, we know how to do this movement, we just don't know how to use it in a piano, but we'll have a little bit of a message, right? But anyway, say you don't have that background. Again, here's your brain, here's your neurons coming out. They're all going in a bunch of different random directions. And so for your brain to play piano, it's really going to have to think very carefully and go very slowly to try to find a pathway from the different neurons to send the message it's trying to send from the brain to the hand to make your fingers do what they need to do to play the piano. You'll make a lot of mistakes. It'll be very slow because your brain has to think very hard, find the pathway, send it through the right pathway, get it to your hand, and make your hand do the right thing. And then again, you don't have good pathways, connections going from your neurons back to your brain, so then it's slow to get the message back to your brain that you're doing it right, etc. So you got to keep going back and forth. Now, after a little bit of practice, you see what happens here, right? If we go back and forth, here's a little neuron, it's getting a little bigger. So the connection is getting a little bit stronger, because what happens is when you practice, it tells your brain, it tells your body, hey, we want to create a path, a better path, but of these neurons, a better connection from these neurons, a chain going from my brain to my hand and back. So after you practice, it starts building. Your brain actually literally starts changing to create these stronger pathways and connections from these neurons between your brain and your hand and back again. Okay? So with a little bit of practice, these connections get a little bit better, a little bit faster, but you're still struggling. You still have to think a lot because that connection still isn't super strong. After you practice some more, notice the connection's getting stronger, moving faster, right? Like your brain now knows I'm going to use this pathway to send the message, right? I'm going to only go back and forth here, where before maybe when you first started, because you didn't know which neurons to use, it was sending messages in the wrong directions that weren't being really helpful, slowing you down. But here now, the connection's getting stronger, you're playing piano a little better, and really, once you're really good, a lot of practice, now this connection's super strong, it's super big, going all the way into your hands and back and forth. And now you can go much faster, you're going to be better at playing piano, etc., right? The other thing you should know is part of the other reason this connection gets bigger and faster, right, is actually the neurons themselves will develop in a way that they pass the message faster in the chain. So I really want to remind you, this picture is simplified, right? You don't literally get one huge neuron that goes from your brain into your hand. This would be a chain, but this is representing, right, like a very strong chain, a very big chain that goes back and forth so that your brain really specializes and is really good at playing piano. So you literally, as you practice, you change your brain to make you better at something. So if you're bad at something, when you start is just because you do not have the right connections to do it well. You're going to have to think a lot more about it. You're going to have to slow down. You won't have the strong connections. Just by practicing, you literally change your brain to be able to do these things and to learn and grow better. So when you are learning something, keep that in mind. It's not that you can't do it ever, just that you don't have the strong connections now. And so with some practice, you will get better connections. Okay? So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to show a little video of someone learning to play piano, and I just want you to think about what we just said. So how is the neurons, how are they getting stronger? Why is the person slow at the beginning and having to think a lot and stop a lot versus why at the end, right? You can almost play automatically piano. You can think about other things while playing because your neurons are so strong. It's almost automatic when you have a really good connection versus at the beginning, the connection is not strong, you have to think too much. So really, you will see this in the video I'm about to show you. If you don't play piano, think about riding a bike. It's very similar. When you first start riding a bike, you don't have strong connections, so you have to think about it a lot, and it makes you really slow and fall over a lot. Versus when you get really good at riding a bike, the connections are really strong, the messages just go back and forth, the messages go back and forth from your brain to your hand really fast, and you can actually think about other things now while riding a bike. Okay, it's similar with the piano. So let's take a look at this video for you to get a feel for what I mean by that. So again, just watch the video, see what is happening in the piano, and think about, okay, how are the connections getting stronger? Why is the person slow? Why are they having to think so much? Versus once the connections are strong, they can kind of play quickly and fast without having to think. So let's take a look. So as you were watching that video, now might be a good time for you to take a second. You can pause this, turn and talk about what you saw in the video, what you think you noticed about how the person playing piano was either getting better or their connections in their brains, right, between their brains and their hands, the neurons, right, were doing better and faster for them to make them go automatic as they got better. Notice they started with one hand, ended up being able to do two hands, but just doing a little bit at a time. Right? So go ahead and turn and talk for a second and take 30 seconds with the partner to talk about what you saw, and then we'll go forward. All right, so now we are about to figure out how you learn. So in a minute, your teacher's going to kind of walk through reflection for you to think about what is something that you learned how to do really well. How did you grow in that? What did you what made you want to practice it? Because again, there's nothing you get very good at without practicing, right? Now, some of us think, well, no, I was good at something or other right when I started. And usually, if you think about it, you can break it down and figure out that maybe, I started playing baseball and I was actually able to throw the ball pretty well right off the bat. But when I think about it, it's actually because I used to be throwing other things a lot in the backyard with my friends or whatever beforehand. I threw pine cones, I threw other kinds of balls, whatever. Uh, that was the practice I needed to get good enough so that when I started this other thing, I was actually able to do it. So really thinking about what made you practice, what makes you want to practice, right? Something you really like is usually something you also end up getting really good at because you do it a lot. I read a lot.
I really love reading. And as a result, I'm a really good reader, right? It's just like that. So really think about how those things come into play and what you don't practice much because you don't like it and how you're probably not that great at it versus the things that you become really good at and practice and get better at because you love doing it. That's how you learn. So that's what this reflection is going to be. And again, your teacher will walk through that with you. Just keep in mind as you do it, you're going to be drawing some pictures of what's happening in your brain as you get better. So really think about what you saw in this video in terms of the brain and the connections going between the brain and the hand as it got better. Think about what your neurons are doing, what your connections are doing, how they're getting stronger while you're learning when you fill this out.